Okay, so how does a simple college project, one that was actually rejected by a professor, by the way, somehow spiral into a multi-million-dollar AI startup that's trying to simulate the future? It's a wild story. Let's dive right in. So it all kicks off with a super relatable problem. The guy at the center of this is Guo Hongjiang, an undergrad who, was just trying to knock out his graduation project early so he could focus on finding an internship. We've all been there, right? But here's where things get interesting. Instead of spending months hunched over a keyboard coding from scratch, he used modern AI tools and built the whole thing in just 10 days. Yeah, 10. Some developers are calling this vibe coding, basically just bringing ideas to life super fast with a little help from AI. So he creates this tool, takes it to his PhD supervisor, and gets told point blank that it's not a qualified graduation project. Ouch, a total academic dead end. So what happens next? This happens. $4 million. The idea that came after that rejection landed him a massive investment. So you got to be asking, how on earth do you go from a failed college project to a multi-million-dollar valuation? Let's break it down. Well, it all started with that first project, the one his professor hated. Yeah, that one. It turns out it became an accidental viral hit online. So this rejected project was called Mirofish, and what it did was actually pretty simple but really powerful. It was an AI tool that could scrape like dozens of social media platforms to analyze public opinion and then spit out these nice structured reports. Basically, it was all about looking at what had already happened. Yeah, so the official academic verdict was blunt. From the university's perspective, it just didn't pass muster. But the open source community, the folks on the internet, oh, they had a very different opinion. And listen, this is absolutely the crucial point right here. While academia was waving it off, a tech titan, Chen Tianxiao, the founder of Shanda Group, he saw something totally different. He didn't see a failed project. He saw a kid who could spot a real, valuable problem and then figure out how to solve it. And that skill, that was worth way more than any academic box checking. And it turns out the market agreed, big time. Guo just launched it anyway, and Betafish absolutely exploded on GitHub. We're talking 1,000 stars, then 10,000, then 30,000, all in just a few weeks. It was topping the global trending charts, even beating out stuff from giants like OpenAI and Google. You can just imagine, his inbox was completely flooded. So all that buzz, that viral success, that's what got him the meeting with Shanda. And with their backing, his ambition took this huge leap from just analyzing the past to trying to actually simulate the future. And that's the big conceptual jump right there. Betafish was all about understanding what people were saying yesterday. The new idea, which he named Mirofish, was about simulating what they might actually do tomorrow. A whole different ballgame. And you're not going to believe this. With the full backing of a major investor and total creative freedom, he built the prototype for Mirofish in, you guessed it, another 10 days. The speed is it's mind-boggling. And from that point on, things just moved at light speed. He recorded a quick demo on his phone, sent it over. The very next day, the phone rings. It's the confirmation for a $4 million investment. And just like that, at 22 years old, Guo Hengjiang goes from hunting for an internship to being a CEO. So, what exactly is this $4 million idea? What is Mirofish really? Okay, let's pop the hood and take a look at how this prediction engine works. Okay, so at its core, Mirofish is what's called a swarm intelligence engine. The best way to think about it is like this. Imagine you're creating a digital sandbox, and you fill it with thousands of tiny AI agents. You give each one a unique personality, its own memories, its own way of thinking, and then you just let them all interact and see what happens. You're looking for those unexpected behaviors that emerge. So here's how the whole process works. First, you feed it some seed data. This could be news articles, reports, basically any relevant documents. Then the system builds this big knowledge graph from all that info. After that, it generates thousands of AI agents based on that data and just runs the simulation. And once it's done, a special report agent analyzes the whole thing. And the coolest part? You can actually go in and talk to individual agents to figure out why they did what they did. Now, for anyone out there who's a bit more technical and wants to play with this, the whole project is open source on GitHub. You'll need Python and Node.js. It can hook into any standard large language model, like the ones from OpenAI.
And it uses the service called Zep Cloud to give the agents long-term memory, which is pretty cool.
Okay, so a simulation engine sounds awesome, right? But let's get real. Where does it actually give you an edge? Like, where would a tool like this be genuinely useful for making predictions?
The creators are actually really upfront about this. It's really good at modeling social dynamics. So think about things like political elections or geopolitical conflicts, stuff that's driven by how groups of people behave. That's where it has high potential. But for things like crypto, financial markets, or sports, which have totally different mechanics and a lot more randomness, yeah, the potential is a lot lower.
So this is super important. Mirofish is not a magic 8-ball. It's not a button you press to get the right answer. The way you're supposed to use it is as a really powerful research tool. You feed it high-quality sources. You run the simulation to understand the why and the how behind a potential outcome. And then you compare that insight to what the market is actually pricing in. Think of it as a new lens, not an oracle.
All right, now we have to be realistic here. This is a super new, super experimental tool, and it comes with some pretty big limitations. So yeah, it could be an edge, but it's an edge with a giant asterisk right next to it.
Okay, first off, garbage in, garbage out. The simulation is only ever going to be as good as the data you put into it. It also doesn't model the nitty-gritty of market mechanics, like order books, so it's not going to tell you how a price will move. Plus, it's expensive and slow to run. And maybe most importantly, remember, this is basically a public beta. If you use it, you're an early tester, bugs and all. But let's zoom out to the bigger picture for a second. We live in a world where pretty much everyone has access to the same news, the same data, right? That old information edge is basically gone. What Mirofish represents is the start of something different, the modeling edge. It's an advantage you get not from having more info, but from having a better way to process it. And that really leaves us with a fascinating question to chew on. We've spent the last few decades deep in the information age, just focused on gathering more and more data. But if tools like this become common, are we on the verge of moving into a simulation age? An era where the key to understanding the future isn't just to analyze the past, but to actually build and test different versions of what's to come?